Hello everybody, welcome back to another live stream, and apologies if you were waiting for this to start about 10 minutes ago. I had some issues getting YouTube to allow me to connect, and I think it's working now. So hello, I hope you're all doing well. Please feel free to let me know that everything's working all right, because there are always technical issues with these live streams, but let's hope that it's working and that it keeps working smoothly for the rest of this session. So if you are here, and assuming this is all working all right, what I wanted to do in this live stream is just talk a little bit about my favorite photographer. So, photographer in the classic sense of, one of the master photographers, and that is, so I've got a book here to sort of talk a little bit about him, and his name is Sergio Larrain, or I guess the proper Spanish pronunciation would be Sergio Larrain, and I hope I'm saying that right. If there's any Spanish speakers out there, apologies for my bad pronunciation, but that's what I want to talk about today. Sergio Larrain, my favorite photographer, and he is a Chilean photographer who was active with Magnum back in the 60s. So I think, from around 1959 up until maybe the early 70s, he was active with Magnum, and, he was in the loop with people like Henri Cartier-Bresson, and he had a sort of a short working period within that phase of his life, of his working life. And he isn't someone who is known to have been a really prolific photographer with a lot of bodies of work or books or exhibitions, because he is someone who was seen, or someone who was quite reclusive. So what I've got today is, you're seeing just a little slideshow that I picked out a few images of Sergio himself and a few of his more well-known images. But what I want to do today is focus on the book which I just showed you, which is Valparaiso, and that's one of his two main books. So I've got a view here. What I'm going to do is I've set up a nice little trick here. I've got the book on a separate camera, and so I discovered Sergio Larrain through my friend Nick many years ago when I was at his house, around the time we first started the channel. Nick has one of Sergio's other books, which is just the self-titled book. It's a much larger one, and that one is a bit more expensive. So I don't have a copy of that myself, and I am saving for that book. It is on my list of books to get. But this one here, Valparaiso, was a much more affordable book, but definitely planning to get the other one. The body of work. So I'll talk a little bit first, about his backstory in case a lot of you guys aren't familiar. So he was active with Magnum for those years I talked about, through the 60s mainly, but he sort of grew tired of working as a journalistic photographer, and there's even like interesting letters that you would see in this book between him and Henri Cartier-Bresson, who, where he sort of expressed that disinterest, that growing disinterest in the journalistic side of photography. And he was someone who was very reclusive. His photography is very meditative, very poetic, and that's what I really like about his work, and I'm sure many others do too. So I'm going to switch to another view here just so you can see the book a little bit bigger while I sort of flip through some of it. And yeah, I just wanted this to be a quick little stream where I just share with you who my favorite photographer is through the means of this book, Valparaiso, one of my favorite photo books, and a beautifully printed book. And if you look at it, just the texture on this book is a really nice book physically as well. This is the latest version through Aperture, and it's just a nice little book to have in the collection. So this is probably one of his most well-known images, and you can immediately see the style of work. This is sort of emblematic of his style of photography. So he does shoot a lot in vertical like this, and he does pretty much just do black and white photography. So I'll just make sure that microphone is picking me up all right. Yeah, and this is probably one of those images that you would see immediately if you were to look up Sergio Larrain. And as I flip through the book, I'll probably just talk a little bit more about the story behind this. So Valparaiso is a port city in Chile. Sergio himself, I think, was originally from Santiago, but he had sort of a love for this city. This city of Valparaiso used to be a really important port city for Chile, but the significance of it sort of dropped off with the modernization, and it was always an artistic city, a very sort of bohemian city full of hills, and the name Valparaiso means valley of paradise, or paradise valley in Spanish. And again, I hope I'm right on that, but this is a picture of Valparaiso itself. And after Sergio quit with Magnum, so he quit Magnum in the early 70s, and what's really interesting about him, as I mentioned, him being a really reclusive character, someone who wasn't really in love with the commercial side of photography, of journalistic photography, he actually sort of went off and lived in the mountains of Chile somewhere, in a really reclusive place, under the guidance of the guru. He was very much someone who was into meditation and things like yoga, and he went and he escaped to live a mountain life in recluse, sort of just to focus on meditation and calligraphy, which is amazing. And if you look through his work, you can see that his photography is a very meditative style of photography. But if you buy this book Valparaiso, you will first see those few images, but then this beautiful opening by Pablo Neruda, who was a very famous poet who actually wrote this opening for the book. He was someone who was, I guess, friends with Larrain, and this was written especially about the port city of Valparaiso, and it just pairs beautifully with the images in the book. So it just makes for such an interesting photo book, in the fact that it has that, poetic opening and the backstory, and then you dive into some of the work here in terms of photography. So it's just beautiful stuff, and you will see that he was a very poetic, meditative guy, just looking through his photography. Someone who was really known for working with layers and shadow and light in a way that not many other photographers had before him. And let's just flip through and look at a few images. And the beautiful thing is that there's these few bits of written words by Sergio Larrain himself in this version of the book, which is the final version that he expanded on compared to the original. So this one has images from his earlier body of work and his later body of work. As he sort of retired and went back to Chile, he actually spent more time going back and documenting the city in, I guess maybe with a newer eye. And I can definitely see that his later work was even more meditative and detached than the earlier stuff that he would have done in terms of the busy street photography, both in this city and other cities. But it's just a beautiful book, and there's even some paintings there in prints. This is an amazing image. This is one that's really well known. But again, you can just see how well he works with layers and with vertical compositions. He was someone that, much like Henri Cartier-Bresson, was I think sort of from an old school painter's eye of composition in terms of working with geometry and composition here. And this one is just amazing, the way he composes. Very unconventional sort of compositions in that sense. So I'm not sure if these are handwritten by himself and then reprinted, but they kind of look like they are. Either way, they are his words printed next to the photographs in this book. So if anyone watching is familiar with his work, please feel free to let me know what you think. Recommendations for other photographers who have a similar style. I know maybe I guess not many people would have a very similar style to Sergio Larrain, but maybe Saul Leiter in terms of having a lot of layering and vertical compositions. I'm a big fan of him as well. But what I love about Sergio Larrain's work is the black and white minimalism and that really meditative sort of feel you get. He has appreciation for just really small aspects of life that would normally go unnoticed. So there's an interesting little quote here: horizontal, vertical contemplation. It just really adds to the viewing experience, I find, having those words in there. So yeah, definitely someone who really inspires me in my photography, and even just as an artist. And this book, it only cost, I think, around $30–40 Australian, which is not bad for a really beautiful, well-printed photo book. I highly recommend it. I did put a link to it in the description if anyone is interested in purchasing it. I got mine through Amazon. And again, you can just see the predominance of the vertical compositions. And obviously this book just focuses around his photography that was made in Valparaiso. Just reading through the comments here. Oh, hi from a Chilean. Abel Silva, welcome. Thanks, mate. I was hoping there'd be some Chileans or someone who knew of his work, because he's not one of the most well-known Magnum photographers. He is pretty well-known, but not as much as others. Haven't heard from Nick for a while. Is he going to make an appearance on the channel again soon? I hope so. I keep saying that, but he's so busy, and because we're in lockdown in Melbourne, this year of 2020 has been one of those years where it's very hard to meet up with anyone or do anything that isn't within your close range. We're limited to 5 kilometers range at the moment with the curfew as well. Valparaiso still has those beautiful hills, architecture, and bohemian life you mentioned. It's a wonderful place to visit and get lost photographing like Sergio Larrain used to do. Yes, and I definitely want to visit Chile and especially Valparaiso one day. It's on my list, on my bucket list. Great idea for a stream, thank you. Yeah, I mean, look at this image. This is beautiful. This kind of reminds me more of the work of someone like Robert Frank or Henri Cartier-Bresson in the fact that it's a more traditional landscape orientation image, but the way he's actually included multiple elements in a beautifully composed way throughout the frame. This is not a complete departure from his other work, which often focuses more on layers and vertical compositions and framing type. This looks like a slightly wider angle, maybe a 35 or 50, where there's just things filling the frame in all kinds of points of interest here with amazing composition and capturing life. I mean, look what's going on here. That's great. All right, another one of his really well-known images here. So yeah, guys, that was what my aim was through this live stream, and I'll leave it online for anyone who does not know about Larrain's work. It's definitely someone that you should know about and is worth seeing some of his work, at least in some capacity, whether it's in a photo book ideally or elsewhere. This image here, probably another one of his really well-known ones. Again, look at that perfect triangulation of these 3 characters, these elements of the image. The fact that he's managed to layer the foreground with a middle ground and a background element all within this really nice tight frame here. It's something that isn't easy, but he would pull off these sort of compositions really well. And these more abstracted images like these, I believe, are the ones that he would have taken in the more recent years. And the beautiful thing about this book is it has an index of the images and the year they were taken. I think somewhere towards the back, I can't remember, but yeah, without ruining it all for you, I don't want to flip through the entire book, but I wanted to just give you an idea and turn you on to Larrain's work if you are someone who gravitates towards this style of photography, that really quiet, meditative. I mean, look, it's all summarized there with the words "no hurry." That's the kind of person he was, and he was someone who was really for the preservation of the city of Valparaiso and of environmentalism and the preservation of the earth in general. And he was someone who advocated for reuse and recycling and meditation and yoga, and that's the kind of person he became known as. This is a beautiful image, this one, quite another well-known image of his. I think this one is in his other book, in his self-titled book. But what I want to show you as well is towards the end of the book, there's a lot of little excerpts of written pieces from himself towards here, with some of his more personal beliefs to do with humanity, philosophy, and especially things like yoga. Yeah, so it's more than just a photo book. That's what I love about this one. Sorry guys, I'm just reading through some of the comments here. Yeah, definitely recommend it. So yeah, there's a lot of written content explaining how this book came about, this version of the book, and some of the images he wanted added to it, because the original version was a little bit thinner. It had some of the older images in there, and then he added some of his later work, which he might have shot on digital, I'm not sure. No, probably still shot on film, but on a more modern camera. Yeah, it makes me wonder if he actually has more photographic work that was never seen, that we don't know about, kind of like in a Vivian Maier style. But this here was the original book that you see, the way that was laid out with the original images. And these are some of the letters between him and Henri Cartier-Bresson and his assistant and other contemporaries. 1965. You can see the written version, and then it's sort of dictated into a typed version of the letter there. His handwriting was a bit messy, but still legible. Yeah, how good is that? So, Valparaiso, just wanted to share that with you guys, and maybe it'll inspire someone. Maybe someone will discover Sergio through this video. And I definitely recommend picking up this book if you are after something new for your collection. I hope everyone's been well. Feel free to share your comments with me on this video or on Instagram. I almost wasn't going to do a live stream this weekend because I had a lot of things come up, but I'm glad I managed to come on and put this out there. Another book that I bought recently. It's a different photographer, but this is Jacques-Henri Lartigue. I have another one of his books, but this is a more recent pickup, which is actually another nice photo book if you like color work and black and white. He's got some good stuff in here, but this could be a segment that I could do going forward. Let me know what you guys think. I do like sharing photo books. I want to do a more fleshed out actual video, so a non-live stream video on my favorite photo books or photo book collections or photo books I've seen or want and so on. And I know it's something that's being done a lot, but let me know what you think of that. Otherwise, what I would like to do is maybe every time I get a new photo book that I really like and I've had time to look through, I could do the occasional live stream where I share it in this style, and that way it gives you guys an insight into that photographer, into the book, and whether or not it's someone that you'd be interested in checking out. So thanks again for all the support on the channel on the last videos. My last one was on the essential film holder, which went much better than expected. I'm surprised how many people are actually getting into doing camera digitization of their film at home. And I've got a few more videos lined up in the works. I don't know which one to put out first because I've got a few I want to work on. It's been good in this sense of having the lockdown to actually spend more time making videos. This is the first time I've posted a video every week for more than a few weeks. And things will inevitably get busy again, so I'm not sure how long I'll be able to keep that up. But let me know your thoughts. So thanks for joining on this live stream, and I'll see you all next time.